call this meeting to order. I'd like to ask our superintendent to send prayer and
Stand prayer,
pledge allegiance.
Father, we just thank the Lord for this opportunity to be here tonight, Lord, to discuss school board business and to make decisions and to do things, Lord, that's in the best interest for our children. Lord, we ask for your wisdom, guidance, Lord, and just may we lean upon you and seek your face in all the decisions that we have to make. May everything that we say, may everything we do glorify and honor you. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If there are no changes, I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is adopted. At this time, I'd like to welcome any visitors we have here tonight. If you have any non-agenda items you would like to bring forward, you are more than welcome to address us at this time, keeping in mind we cannot vote on non-agenda items, but we always enjoy hearing input from the public. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I don't see anything on there about school resource officers in schools, because the sheriff's office already has more than a dozen off-duty deputies working in schools, that's what I was told.
Okay.
And they're asking you to pay for those deputies, is the school board going to pay for those deputies?
Would you like
Can I answer that?
Yes, sir.
There was a budget amendment in here, you don't pay for that.
Where's that? Is that on the consent agenda?
Yes, sir. In the general fund budget, the budget amendment, part 2, finance.
It's right here, it is. Actually,
That's correct speaking.
How much is it?
$76,000.
About 3 days for the end of the school year?
We believe so, yes, sir. That'd be fine.
We get to amend this year.
What about the rest of it? What about next school year?
If you'd like to.
There is a safe school allocation that's been increased from the state of Florida. Now, that's a safe school
How
allocation.
much is it?
They'll get an additional $347,000 next year on top of the allocations they're already receiving, which is a little over $440,000 current.
Now, there's some other categoricals within that bill.
Or
That
sorry,
we
the
don't
total
get?
440,
Oh,
sorry,
next year's total.
yeah.
There's some other allocations within Senate Bill 7026 that we don't control, we don't get. Okay, and so they'll have access to some of that, and really, I just don't know what those plans are, or how that's gonna work.
Does all that 440,000 go to hiring school deputies, or does it go to?
The school resource program goes to sheriff's department, and they use it for school resource.
My understanding is the law says whatever that difference was is specifically for school resource officer program.
So the 440,000, is that comparable? I mean, this current year you had 92,000, that was safe schools.
No, last year we spent 100, or this current year, I think it's 171,000, am I correct? $171,000, and out of that,
On what?
out of the safe school allocation, that's what we had, and that's what we spent. For example, if you go to a school and you want to go in, you got to go swipe your ID, and that's the Raptor system that we pay for, the computers and the programming and the fees. That comes out of the safe school allocation. So that's part of that. But out of that, we pay for some safe school allocation, and we also have some other dollars that we contribute for school resource officers to the tune of this year $96,000.
That does not include the 76,000.
That does not include the other.
94,300, and then we'll give an additional 76,000.
Any other questions?
Well, so how does that square you away with putting an armed deputy in every, because the sheriff's office already contributes,
We have one in school.
you have one in there, well, right now you're talking about, but next year,
We'll have to work out these plans.
you think you're going to?
We're going to have to.
We're very thankful for the cooperation the sheriff has provided our schools.
Thankful for the cooperation.
We're very thankful for the cooperation the sheriff has provided our schools, and we know the county commissioner kind of helps with his budget, and we're thankful for that. So, but he's humble before us and said it's important to him, and by it's state law now, it's already been signed by the governor, so that's why we already have school resource officers at each of our schools now.
Now, continue into next year. An armed deputy, school resource officer at each school, not just each campus, but each school.
Well, it depends on the campus school, what you call it. I mean, I don't know those details. We haven't got there. There's a whole lot of options in that bill that we haven't been able to jot and tittle out yet. So we don't know. And the allocation and stuff, that has not come through. So that there's a whole lot of other options and different things that have to come to fruition. And I don't know if all the dollars are gonna be spent the way they said they're gonna allocate them or not. But we just have to wait until we get there and make plans. But there's going to be security at every campus, school, however you wanna look at it.
Well, but earlier you said there is an armed deputy in every school right now.
Yes, sir.
And you're gonna have one in every school next year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just exactly how the money is apportioned between you and the county commission is.
Yes, sir. Like I say, there's some of these allocations that don't come to us.
Well, you answered my question. I wanted to make sure that,
Yeah, we're going to work with the sheriff's department, we're going to work with the county commissioners, we're going to work together for our kids. And make sure that they're protecting our campuses the way they should be.
I didn't see it on the agenda, so I didn't think it was coming up in discussion, so I want to ask this question.
Appreciate it, Mr. Terry.
Excellent job. At this time, we have a presentation from the Bronson Middle High School FFA chapter for their Agricultural Team Issues Forum presentation. Mrs. Smith, please bring forward your proof.
Position yourself in the way you don't speak, to make that a little easier. So first of all, thank you for allowing us to come tonight to present this. A little bit of background about the Agricultural Issues Forum. It is a career development event sponsored through Florida FFA, and then there also the state winner will get to represent Florida at the National FFA Convention in October, I guess it will be, in Indianapolis as Florida's winner. Basically, the parameters of the contest is you can have a 3 to 6, 7-member team that picks an issue that affects, it might be just an agricultural issue, it might be an environmental issue, but something that affects agriculture or FFA. So this year our students did a little bit of background knowledge, and actually it came from back in the fall of the year, my brother and I were having a conversation about his job because he works for the Levy County Department of Health, as some of you know, Wesley Asbell, and he serves on the Basin Management Action Committee for the Rainbow River, and you're going to learn a little bit more about that tonight. But it all came about when we were just having a conversation around the dinner table, and I thought, I hadn't heard about that. Let me do a little investigation. So when I started looking into it, I thought, why hasn't agriculturalists and people out in the general public, why don't they know about this? Because it's been going on for quite a while. So we began in class looking at some of the background information on it. And tonight we're going to present something called RB Maps, the Solution to Florida's Impaired Waters. I will say, first of all, that we are missing a team member tonight. We actually have 6. But unfortunately, Ethan Church, who is our chapter president, was unable to get off from work tonight. So as a senior, I had to honor that because he's already missed quite a bit of working to be able to come out in the public and do this. So I'll be filling Ethan's position in the presentation. But we have to do this 5 times. Tonight is our 3rd time doing this. Immediately after we finish here, we are going to excuse ourselves because we're going to trot over to the Levy County Extension Office because the Junior Cattlemen's Association is also meeting tonight, and we'll be presenting it over there as well. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Jackson. And let me say this so that you understand why all of them are not in their official dress. You know, we're pretty sticklers about that in FFA, about wearing their official dress. But in this competition, they do role playing. So Jackson's going to start us off, but each one of these other young ladies, who, by the way, all this group are freshmen in high school. So, you know, tackling a topic of this magnitude has been quite a job for them. But all of these young ladies are representing some facet of this issue that you will understand a little better we get finished. So Jackson?
Hello everyone, and thank you for coming to this presentation of Basic Management Action Plans. My name is Jackson Athwell, and I'm joined here today with my fellow teammates, Sydney Bray, Maggie Huber, Bailey Herring, Emily Munden, and our Ag Advisor, Marsha Smith. We are here today to discuss the question, are BMAPs the solution to restoring Florida's impaired waters? Before we begin, we'll need to go over a few acronyms that you'll need to be familiar with. BMAPs, Basic Management Action Plans.
Okay, wait just a second. Get that on there. Might just hit next slide. Like that.
Okay. BMAPs, Basic Management Action Plans, DEP, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the FFB, Florida Farm Bureau, the SRWMD, which is the Swanee River Water Management District, and the DOH, the Department of Health. Some of the stakeholders of BMAPs are Florida homeowners, agriculturalists, Florida recreational areas like golf courses and athletic fields, the DOH, the DEP, and the SRWMD. Here to speak with you now is our Ag Advisor, Marsha Smith.
So as I said, I'll be filling in for Ethan tonight, and Ethan's role was the Department of Environmental Protection. So he's gonna, as our only senior on the team, he's kind of gonna represent the more mature, aspect of our competition. So his job is to explain what is a BMAP. Just by show of hands, how many of you ever before tonight have heard of a BMAP? Put your hand up if you've heard of a BMAP. Okay. So a BMAP is a blueprint. So we all know that blueprints are able to be changed. So you will see some changes to this as this gets implemented. But it's a blueprint for restoring impaired waters by reducing pollutant loadings, meeting the allowable loading established by the total maximum daily loads. Now some of you might say, well, what is TMDL? There's a lot of empirical data out there that this was based upon, where they did some research trying to figure out what exactly, how much nitrogen, and this is basically looking at nitrogen, which is a big component of agriculture, that's entering the Florida, upper Florida aquifer. So, some overviews of BMAPs is that permit, goes to a permitting situation where it limits the amount of wastewater facilities that can put out wastewater on golf courses and things like that. It also includes best management practices in agriculture, and I know we have some agriculturalists in the room here tonight that are already practicing those best management practices. It's designed to implement pollutant reductions by establishing those total maximum daily loads. They are broad-based plans, lots of stakeholders involved, as you'll see in just a few minutes. They rely on local input and government input and commitment to this, so it's going to require people in the community, school boards, it's going to require county commissions, it's going to require homeowners even if you have a septic system at your house to be in tune with what's going on in putting these BMAPs in place. And the thing that is the stickler point, this all goes into effect on July the 1st, 2018, that's less than 3 months away. And they are enforceable by secretarial order through the Department of Environmental Protection. So that's all a mouthful, and we have a little, some more about BMAPs is that it goes into effect on July the 1st, as I told you. The DEP has more than a dozen new and revised BMAPs for our areas, including all our outstanding Florida springs, which would include places like Ishtuckney, which I'm sure we've all been on before, Hart Springs in Gilchrist County, the Silver River and the Silver Springs, and the Rainbow River, which is just to the south of us. BMAPs cover almost 14 million watershed acres in the state of Florida, and that directly affects 6.5 million Floridians. And you are probably one of them. So what is the problem? So nitrogen sources to the Florida aquifer is the problem. And we have some sources there indicated. Atmospheric deposition of nitrogen is one source. Wastewater treatment facilities is another. Your home septic tank, if you have a septic tank at your home, is a possible nitrogen source. Livestock operations, of course, could be considered a nitrogen source. Crop fertilizers, and we know in Levy County we grow a lot of peanuts and watermelons. And then, of course, your urban fertilizers, which I'm sure some of you have probably fertilized your yard or lawn in the past few days, getting ready for the summer growth period. So the problem is these nitrogen sources end up into our groundwater. Part of that nitrogen is taken up by plants, and part of that nitrogen re-enters the nitrogen cycle, but that which doesn't ends up flooding into the Florida aquifer, and that's the problem. Let me go back. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Sydney Gray. Aren't you next? Okay. Who's going to talk to you a little bit about Florida Farm Bureau's role in this.
As y'all heard Ms. Smith say already, my name is Sydney Bray and I'm representing the liaison for Florida Farm Bureau. I sat on the committee that planned and implemented many BMAPs for our area. Florida Farm Bureau is the voice of American agriculture. The Florida Farm Bureau's mission is to increase the net income of farmers and ranchers, to improve the quality of rural life. We serve 145,000 members within the state. With that in mind, Florida Farm Bureau is teaming up with local agriculturalists to work through the implementation of these BMAPs. My job on the board is to represent agricultural interests and make sure local farmers and ranchers get the full pros and cons of using BMAPs. Quite frankly, the DEP hasn't done a good job of getting the word out, so I'm here to help. Just think, as Ms. Smith had already said, these go into effect on July 1st. And after visiting several county meetings, I know for a fact these regulations are going to catch many homeowners and ranchers by surprise. The average input of nitrogen, nitrate, and phosphorus in most places will need to be reduced 82%. That's an almost unaccomplishable amount. Due to all the changes this reduction will require, much more labor than there is today. You may be wondering what will happen if you don't follow these BMAPs and these best management practices. First, you will get some notices of violation. Then after the set amount of time, you'll be fined on a day-to-day basis. It will be very difficult to monitor and implement the many variables that must be taken into consideration with these BMAPs. So keep that in mind when deciding to implement BMAPs or not. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Maggie Huber.
Thank you. My name is Maggie Huber and I'm a local farmer in Levy County. First, I would like to establish that as a farmer, I am dependent upon the resources of the land. I consider myself a steward of both soil and water resources. My other farmers and I have implemented best management practices on the farm to prevent soil erosion and prevent leaching of chemicals into the groundwater. My farm has been recognized by the CARES program several years in a row now. Now, these new regulations are coming along, and while there are cost-sharing measures built into the plan, I expect they will cause unreasonable expenses. I am especially worried about loss in yield, which translates to lost income. How many more of these government regulations will I have to put up with? My colleagues in the dairy industry will really be hit hard when these go into effect in just over 3 months. I have already signed a notice of intent to participate in the Best Management Practice program offered through the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Implementing BMPs on the farm are in the best interest of the environment but can cost extra. For example, changing irrigation methods and schedules to reduce water loss and nutrient loss into the environment may require new equipment and purchasing of software to run the system. Next, I'd like to introduce Bailey Herring, who is representing the Department of Health.
Good evening, my name is Bailey Herring from the Florida Department of Health, also known as the DOH, and I'm here to discuss the role that Florida Department of Health has in basic management action plans. The Florida Department of Health has had a wellness process because you probably know the DOH is the regulatory agency for septic systems within the state. Many Floridians use septic systems rather than municipal sewage systems. And the issue here is there's high levels of nitrogen and phosphorus in our waters that can lead to a multitude of health problems. An example of this is blue baby syndrome, which can which can be fatal to some infants. Some other health issues that could occur are rashes, stomach and liver illness, respiratory problems, neurological effects, and the list goes on. While I am concerned with the Floridians, I am also concerned with how the average homeowner will be able to meet the added cost of installing advanced performance center systems, and how the DOH is expected to be the enforcement side of VMAPS, while the DEP is still the governing agency. There are many kinks to be worked out before July 1st as it relates to the manpower necessary to monitor, maintain, and enforce these regulations. Up next is Ms. Emily London.
Good evening, I'm Emily Munden, homeowner and environmentalist. As a concerned citizen and member of Save the Swanee, I am very worried about the pollutants that are entering our precious springs here in North Florida. As you well know, the springs along the Swanee River are part of the greatest concentration of springs in the world. We all must do our part to save these precious natural resources so that generations to come will be able to enjoy them as much as we did. A wise woman once said, "Man is a part of nature, and his war against nature is inevitably a war against himself." This woman was author and famed environmentalist Rachel Carson. So with that being said, I am so glad that the state of Florida is finally going to hold those responsible for polluting our drinking water accountable. I would now like to call Mr. Jackson Hemphill back to stand.
Thank you everyone for listening to our presentation on Basin Management Action Plans. You've been a great audience. I will leave you today with the following question. Are VMAPS the solution to Florida's impaired waters? Only time will tell. It will require collaboration between agencies, all stakeholders to be committed, and they must be adapted to meet changes over time, and goals and strategies must be communicated to stakeholders. If you wish to learn more about VMAPS and how they will affect you, you may visit these links. Thank you.
So to find out more, go to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and just Google VMAPS. You will get more information than you care to have to thumb through. The VMAP for the Rainbow River has been in effect for a couple of years now, and it's like a 120-page document. The one for the Swanee River Water Management District, which encompasses the north side of Levy County, has not been adopted yet, and we're 3 months away from implementation. So these are documents in work in progress. You can see that they're going to change over time, and a big deal is how in the world are we going to implement and pay for these and hold people accountable? That's the crux of the problem right there. So stay tuned. If you're interested, we will be competing at the State FFA Convention on Monday, June the 11th. We do this in 2 rounds. We'll be in a flight, and then so many teams out of the first round and the second round, and then we'll declare a state winner. I will tell you that our competition format's a little bit different, because here we just have to present the information. But in the competition, it's more of a skit-oriented deal, so that the kids will actually get to role play their parts, and we're going to kind of do it like a town hall meeting where they have to interact with each other. So if you're interested, come see us down in Creek Royale in Orlando on June the 11th. Thank y'all for listening. Again, we're going to excuse ourselves because we have another engagement, but one last favor, and I'll direct it this way, because we have to have documentation that we were here tonight. So I need a volunteer to write me a little letter and get it to me before Thursday. Thank you. I know, that's short notice, but I was telling Max when he came in, trying to get 5 of these forms done in a short period of time and do it around the Swanee River Fair and a week's worth of spring break has been difficult. So I apologize for the short notice, but if you'll take care of that, we appreciate it. Thank y'all.
I would like to make a special announcement. If y'all will remember, back before the Swanee River Fair, Emily Munden is a young lady who said she was donating the proceeds from her hog sale to another student who is suffering from cancer. Today, I spoke with Marty Smith, who is in charge of the money, and so Emily will now know her hog wound up receiving $67 a pound. That is a total of $17,411. on the front there? Yeah.
You know, Mom?
I know all those moms.
Oh, yes, I do need my flash.
Ship off the book. Yeah, I got all that from Melissa. All right, we will move on to Miss Haley Hayes and Mr. Brent Myron.
Thank you, sir.
That's hard to follow a student presentation, no matter what you have.
Especially that.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's amazing. I wonder who his father is. I bet he is proud of that kid. I know the boy's mom.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Anyway, I am here this evening to present some information on an employee assistance program. For many years, we've had a simple employee assistance program. It's not a monetary assistance program. It's one in helping an employee that may be dealing with issues as far as with their job, with a marital issue, aging parents, teenagers, finances, things like that. What we've had in place so far has been the employee would call the personnel director, and then sometimes she and I would go out and meet with them. No counseling involved because we are not trained counselors, but we would refer them out. And that's usually where it was left off. We felt the need that our employees are needing a little more. As you know, our teachers and staff are under great deals of stress as testing started this week. There comes financial issues, aging parents, teenagers, all at the same time. And so I had an actual employee that approached me and asked me to look into an employee assistance program. She had one in another school district that she worked at, and she said it was a relief to know that they could pick up the phone and they could call someone, and this person could counsel them on what's going on in their life. The visits were free. The first 6 visits were free. She said it helped with subs because they could call someone at home. They wouldn't have to take a mental health day. It helped with blood pressure, taking medications, and things like that. So she asked me to research that, and I got the approval from Candy and Marla. And so we did some research, and we were referred to New Directions and Brent, and he came up and met with us. New Directions is actually related to Florida Blue, and they handle our mental health benefit with our health insurance. So we want to have Brent show the proposal. The proposal is not just for employees on the health insurance. It would be open to every employee, their spouse, and any dependents that would be covered under the health insurance. And we only pay on the employee rate. So when we get done, if you have any questions, let me know, but I'm going to let Brent take over.
Those guys were all freshmen. I'm 50, and I don't like talking in front of people like this. They were smooth. That was really good.
Especially a boy.
Yeah, especially him.
Thanks to Mom.
I'm just going to go over real quick who New Directions is. I'm going to go over the EAP program, what it all entails, and then a little bit about what the return on investment would be. If you're looking at investing some money in this, I want to show you how it can be an investment for your people. So real quick, just who we are. We've been around since '95. We work with several different health plans. I'll go into that in a second. We only do 2 things. We manage behavioral health. That's on the insurance side. That means we do all the case management, utilization management, we set up a network, etc. for some insurance companies, including Florida Blue. And then we also have a full-service employee assistance program, which I'll talk about, what I'm going to talk about. We're a nationwide company. We have 16 million members. all over the country. We do have 7 partnerships with Blue Cross and Blue Shield health plans. I'll get to that in a second. We have over 2,500 different EAP client groups, and we have about 700 employees. But our partnerships, and the only one really that matters to you all, is Florida Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So you have Florida Blue Cross and Blue Shield as your insurance. So we're already touching you. So what we do for you right now, you don't know that. If you had somebody call, if one of your employees called Florida Blue and said, I want to see a counselor, they say, okay, hold on, I'm going to send you to our behavioral health unit. They're not going to say, I'm going to send you in a new direction. I'm going to send you to our behavioral health unit, which says. We set up that entire network of all the providers, the inpatient care, outpatient care, the psychiatrists, counselors, etc. We do all the case management, utilization management. If somebody went into inpatient care, we would case manage them, make sure that they get to the right place once they leave. So that's all on the insurance side. So we're already touching you guys as it is on the behavioral health side. So then we also offer a full service EAP, again, which is what I'm going to talk about today. You can see there's a lot of different rules that we work with. And we do a good job. 97% EAP satisfaction. As far as the employees, 95% of them will use it. So we do it well. We've been doing it for a long time. So real quickly, what's in the EAP? There's a separate number that they can call, that your employees can call. They're going to call us. We'll do an assessment, figure out what's going on the phone. Do they need legal assistance? Do they need financial assistance? Do they need counseling? What's the situation? What's going on? And at that point, we're going to refer if it's counseling. That's obviously the biggest part of the employee assistance program. By the way, all this stuff is free to the employee. It doesn't cost them a dime. There's no co-pay. There's no cost whatsoever associated with anything I'm going to talk about. Zero. So short-term counseling. Typically, we do a 6-session model where they can get 6 sessions of counseling, and that's per employee or per family member per issue. So just as an example, if somebody's having marital problems. Yeah, obviously that impacts what you're going to do during the day. It impacts how you teach, how you deal with things during the day if you're having problems at home. So just as an example, you get marital counseling, you get 6 sessions for that. While they're in there, and they say, well, looks like you have an anger problem. You get 6 sessions for that. You have an anxiety issue. You get 6 sessions for that. Your child is having a hard time dealing with what's going on at home. They get 6 sessions for that. So it's 6 sessions per family member per issue. So really, really robust. Again, no cost whatsoever, no co-pay, no anything. The next part, the important one, is the legal and financial services. If they had any kind of legal concerns, they can call us up. They get a free 30-minute consultation with the lawyer, face-to-face or by phone, unless it has to do with the school. I'm not going to help somebody sue you guys. So if it's any other issue that they're having as far as legal, set them up with a free consultation. Same thing with financial. We're going to set them up with a financial advisor. They get a free consultation. If they decide to retain that financial advisor, they get a 25% discount on the services. Same thing with the legal. As far as online, there are thousands of different articles in our health research library. There's articles on anything from how do I take care of my pet to how do I deal with my depressed spouse or family member who's having a hard time. There's articles on there about how to get a better car loan, how to get a better house loan. There's over 200 downloadable legal documents. So let's say if somebody wants to sell their car, you can download the legal document for that. You can get a free will done online. It's a legally binding will. So there's all kinds of stuff online that, again, everybody can take advantage of. We're now starting, coming up here very soon, texting. You can text a therapist. Obviously, being face-to-face is nice, and that's how it's supposed to be done. You can do it by phone if you'd like. Face-to-face is always the best. But we now have what's called Talkspace, where you text with a counselor for up to a week. And that's one session, texting back and forth. Now, that may sound silly, but millennials, first off, I'm surprised no one's on their phone, yes. I'm serious. We all live on our phone. And what they found, first of all, the access is great because you're gonna text. You can do it right then. They found that men utilize this a lot more than they do the face-to-face counseling. There's a lot of huge things about that. Just because it's very hard to look at your counselor or talk to them on the phone and say I'm depressed. I'm having a hard time. I'm really depressed. It's really easy to text them. makes it very simple. It's a lot of hand in hand. Anyway, it's just another way for people to be able to get help besides phone and face-to-face counseling. There's going to be an app where they can request a session. They can ask about the EAP benefit. Right there, you can call straight from the app, you get tips, read articles, etc. So the app is very handy. There's another part of this called Work Life Plus, where they can call in, and basically, if you look at the issues on the right there, the daily living, child care, health care, health and wellness, education. I'll give an example. They'll call in about their mother. They need to put their mother in a nursing home. They need to find a good nursing home. This is her situation. This is how much money we have. This is what her insurance is. This is where we'd like it to be. These are the services that we'd like. We do a whole assessment, figure out what they want. We do the research and send it back. So it's a lot easier than Google. But it can be something as benign as, you know, I'm a LeBron James fan, and I want a Miami Heat LeBron James jersey for my 2-year-old. And we'll do the research and find out. So it's a nice little service that deals with a lot of. So that's all stuff that's for the employees. As far as for managers and management, you would have a personalized account manager. Debbie Laufenberger would work with you guys directly. Kayla would have her number to be able to talk to her at any time to say, what do I do about this, what do I do about that. Also, supervisors can call us 24/7 as well, just because, again, we've been doing this for 40 years as far as on the EAP side. To say, I don't know what to do about this person, what do I do about this? I've got an employee that's doing this, what do I do about this? I'm not sure. They're yelling at their kids right now. We don't know what to do about it. We're going to assist with that. We do formal management referrals. So formal management referrals are, let's say a teacher is having a hard time with their class. They're yelling at people in their classroom. That's obviously not appropriate. You can always make a recommendation that they go to get counseling, but you don't know if they are or not. If it gets bad enough, what you could do is make a formal management referral to us. You could make it a condition of their employment to say, you're going to go through with this counseling. They sign a form. You send that to us. We set them up with the appropriate services that they need, whatever that may be. And what we are then is the middleman between that supervisor, that employee, the supervisor. We are the middleman. We're going to make sure that, we're not going to make sure, we're going to find out, are they going to their appointments, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? And then we will relay that back to the school. So then all the manager has to worry about is, are they showing up for work, are they doing their job? Because again, they're not counselors, and some of that stuff is really hard to do. Crisis management services, God forbid something would happen in a school, in one of your schools, whatever it may be, again, a crisis of some sort, we'll have somebody there within 24 to 48 hours to help the situation out. If there was a shooting, if there was even a popular principal passes away, and the other teachers are having a hard time with that, we'll have somebody there within 24 to 48 hours to help work that through. All kinds of promotional materials to make sure that, because if your people aren't using it, then it's a waste of money. We want them using it. And if they don't use it, you're not going to renew with us, so it doesn't do us any good. We want your people to know about it, so we'll give you all kinds of promotional materials, brochures, wallet cards, posters all over the place. We'll do email blasts. But again, we want your employees to know about it, know about the services that are available, that you're paying for, so that they utilize them. And we're going to help with that. We'll sit down every quarter and give you a quarterly report to tell you how many people have utilized the service, how many people have called in, how many people have gone to counseling, what the breakdown is, how they found out about it. It's a 10 to 11 page report that really gives you a good idea of what's going on with your district, and if it's getting used or not. What we will do as well is there will be 5 orientations and 2 supervisory trainings. We'll do the because again, we want people to know about the services. We'll come do the orientations in person. If you can get everybody together, you've got 5 trainings that you can do, or orientations that you can do. So we'll come, if it's just of the supervisors, we can do it by supervisors. We'll do it via webinar if you want it via webinar. It really depends on your culture and what works best for you guys. But again, what our goal is with that orientation is for people to see what is available, what they're getting, and for them to utilize it. And again, we'll do supervisor orientations as well, because obviously the supervisors are typically the ones that kind of run into this head first a lot of times, whether the principal or whoever. You also get, let's see, 4 hours of training. So we do trainings, we can do those via webinar, or we can do them in person. Again, whatever works best for you. And it can be anything on, am I an effective manager? Leading through change. We can do dealing with life crises, building personal resiliency. There's more than 30 courses that we will come do, that's all part of it as well. So again, we can do that to whomever you want, to your population as a whole, or maybe you just want, how do I be a better supervisor? How do I be a better manager? Again, that's all part of it as well. And then we have webinars that are recorded on the first of the month. Everybody can listen to them live if they want. Here are the topics for 2018, and this can be, anybody can listen to those, and they'll be taped as well. You can listen to them live, or you can go online and listen to them taped. So this, real quick, I just wanted to show you, this was a school that we had in Kansas City. It had 2,400 employees. They decided they wanted to drop their EAP to save money, so they didn't want to have an EAP. So what I want to show you is the mental health substance abuse benefit, their annual claims cost. When they had the EAP, it was $76,000. The year after, when they dropped the EAP, it went up to $104,000, which was 36% increase in claims for mental health and substance abuse, which makes sense. I mean, if they're not utilizing it through the EAP, they've got to go to somebody to see that. Typically what happens, people go to their family doctor. So this next, psychotropics. Psychotropics are anti-anxiety, anti-depression, drugs like that. Psychotropic medication, when they had the EAP, was $85,000. When they dropped the EAP, it went up to $117,000, so it was a 38% increase in psychotropics. That's because family doctors write the most psychotropics of anybody. And I'm telling you, people go in to see their family doctor and they say, oh, my elbow hurts. And then when the doctor gets up to leave, they're like, and I'm depressed and I can't sleep at night. And they're like, here's Ambien, here's the antidepressant of the day, come back next month. You just got 3 claims right there. And a month later, they come back for the follow-up, you got 3 more claims. And so that's why those costs go up if you don't have an EAP. So conversely, when you add the EAP, what should happen in theory is that you're going to see a drop in your mental health and substance abuse benefit claims as well as the psychotropics. Again, that's a small study, it's just one group, but I think it's pretty relevant. And then I put in here this is your return on investment. If you look at what the EAP per employee per year is, it's $19.24, it's like $1.60. We just did averages of what the average employee salary would be. If we look at time to replace employees, that's if they have to leave for whatever reason, that's where the FMRs come in. It takes about 3 months. But if we look at absenteeism, presenteeism, so absenteeism means when people are depressed and when they're anxious, it's hard for them to get out of bed if they're really depressed and really anxious. So they just don't come to work. That's the absenteeism. That's pretty simple. Presenteeism is probably the harder one to get wrap around, because presenteeism means they drag themselves out of bed, they're there, but they're not there. They came to work, but they've got because when people have high emotions, depression or anxiety, it's hard to focus on your job. It's hard to focus on what you're doing. So presenteeism means I showed up to work, but I'm really not here. But then it shows the healthcare savings, outpatient savings, retention rate through the FMRs. So basically, we're looking at ROI 11 to 1. So that's all I wanted to show you. Thoughts, questions?
Premium total was $16,900 for, that's basically all employees.
Right.
But it would cover everybody in their family. And I did reach out to the sheriff's office. The sheriff's office has new directions. Very good recommendation. They said the quarterly reports that the sheriff gets, they are anonymous. Everything is anonymous. So if they call in, we are never going to know who calls in, never. But we would get a number. And that he has enjoyed that very much because it's great for budgeting purposes. So if we decide to go with this, we want to make sure the employees know everything is anonymous. We're not giving names, things like that. One thing I did want to bring up is several years ago we had some issues where we needed to do a mandatory referral on an employee. We needed to send them out. It is very, very difficult to find someone that will sit down and do an evaluation on an employee just meeting them for the first time. And that was before my time, and Candy can attest to that, that it took Donna days and weeks to find someone. We could send them to New Directions, and New Directions would handle that for us.
How many mental health claims do we have now?
We would, I had Florida Blue run that, it was over $25,000 last year.
And I'm just gonna say this, we talk a whole lot about providing assistance for our kids, but we gotta remember our employees are people too. And, they bring these same issues and stuff home with them. I know a lot of folks deal with, especially with the aging parents and what to do. And so I think it's a great opportunity for our employees.
Ms. Wade, do we have, just because I'm into an analyzation, and all we'll ever do is analyze to go forward and did this, but do we have enough known history within where we're at in our insurance program now with markers to be able to tell if we make a change, if it's affecting change?
By going to this,
Yeah, what I'm saying is, I know our numbers swing every year.
Right,
So
right.
will we be able to look at it analytically?
Yes,
And see a
yes.
change?
yes, because we can.
Categorically?
Yeah, we can have Florida Blue run a report, like I could call them tomorrow and say, can you run me a report from 2014, 15, 16, 17, show me what our claims were.
Okay. Enough history with Florida Blue to
Yes,
have that,
yes.
that's what I was asking.
Yes.
One thing I always say too is if it keeps from having to fire one employee, you've made your money back. I mean, because the fire and hire, you understand how much time and effort that takes to fire and hire. This is really something to help your employees. To help your employees that they're going to be more productive, that they're going to be just better adjusted as a whole.
I don't think we can quantify the presenteeism, I don't think there's any way to do that. But I think that's something, a lot of times, they do get out of bed and they know they've got to go to work, they need a paycheck. But the problem is those kids are sitting in that classroom, are they getting what they need that day?
Can I add a little bit? When I was a principal, I think one of the most stressful things that my teachers and employees were going through was when they were dealing with aging parents. And so one of the things that I noticed in here that they brought out is that if you're trying to place an aging parent in a nursing home or something like that, they will help do the research. And I remember employees taking days off to go do the research and gather all of that, or spend hours at night trying to figure it out online. And just knowing that there's somebody else to bounce ideas off, they can get that research for them and help speed up that process. I think that's just one benefit right there that I see, because there's just a myriad of things that they can provide for these employees that they are having to struggle a full-time job and then deal with it on the side.
To me, just common sense, but it looks like the most difficult challenge of it is to get the employee to recognize that that's the tool they need to use. So I don't know, that's the only challenge I have in my mind is how can we hang it in front of their face all the time for them to know, yeah, that's the source I need to go to.
Well, I think starting off, it's going to be a full force campaign. I think we were talking about an event that might go on, that everybody in there, they will come in and do a presentation, get everybody at one time. Doing these professional developments, these trainings that they're going to have, we have to do it. I think we have to allow, and it's not just me going in, it's not Candy or Marla going in, but it's actually getting them in front of the employees.
Would this in any way be connected to or associated with our wellness, healthcare?
In one way, though, they don't go there, though, for training.
No.
Where I'm going with that is, but, if they go in to see the doctor over here at our healthcare center, and this information comes out, will it be such information that they can then say, well, you know, we're a part of this program, and here's what you can get from that?
Yes.
And, you know, it took us, what, a couple of years to get the not the total buy-in, but part of the buy-in for our people to go to the healthcare.
Well, we're still pushing it, yeah.
I understand that. So, okay, so that,
Yes.
that information would not necessarily, they wouldn't have to come to your office.
No,
or
no,
anything
no,
like
they
that.
don't, no, they'll be more than welcome to.
I understand.
But yeah, we'll give all the information to the care center. We also talk to them if they went to someone and they prescribed a medication, antidepressant medication that we have at the care center, they'll refer them back to pick up that medication there at the care center.
I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
I mean, they may sound silly. On the back, you reference Yankeetown location, right?
That was just,
That was good.
that was just a mistake. But
Well, I was just thinking, is that because Yankeetown's way down there in one or?
yeah,
Well,
no, it was just, yeah.
Don't be implying anything else right
I don't think Yankeetown has any problem. They're great. And then the other question, well, what did you say the annual premium was again? I'm sorry.
It's right under 17,000
For everybody.
for everybody.
Well, it's
And
my
they-
opinion, this would be a good investment of $17,000.
And what they'll do is we'll send them our number, you know, it may go up, it may go down, and we pay on what we, it's an honor system, what we have, once a year, I think it's once a year, I send them a, you know, a list.
Yeah, we own it regardless if it goes up or down by 10%. So if it went up, if I have it as 880 right now, if it went up 87 employees, you don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell us. And if it went down one, you could say, we're at 89.
I'm sorry.
Are you looking for any action on this?
Yes, sir. So, what's your recommendation?
Well, so this is this gonna affect our security or our teachers or things for our students or any money that would take away from any of that?
She's been on this the whole time.
We'll see some savings, it's hard to put a dollar to it, but just as he explained, we'll see some savings, we should see some savings on the end. And we're hoping it helps with absenteeism and things like that don't necessarily have a dollar amount that we give.
We might just have it here to the ground, you will hear teachers say, I need mental health.
I
And
do
it
that
may
all the
strictly
time.
be, I just need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to talk to your spouse, but we're, no, your spouse is trained in this. I just thought that this would be, it's not a moneymaker, but it will pay for itself. That's my
That's
thought.
what-
And I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, since you have expressed such a concern about the school in the south end of our county as a Yankeetown, I would move at this time that we move forward and participate in this program.
All right, excellent, thank you. We have a motion and a second.
One more question. This is unbudgeted, out of the budget, right?
No, it'll be budgeted. It's not in this budget, it'll start July 1.
It starts
and it will
July
be
1 in the new
budget.
budget year.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
This program's only gonna cost the county $17,000 to provide this. This just for the 6 free visits, and after that, it goes on to their health insurance.
They'll have to pay out-of-pocket, there may be some out-of-pocket costs, yes.
Let me I'll make sure I said that. 6 per family member per
Issue.
issue.
Yes.
Per issue.
Jimmy might have 12 issues.
Some people
I
have
know,
a lot of
but
issues.
once you start getting in and start digging down, there may be more things you didn't even realize.
Mr. Turner, please get there. All right, is there any further questions? Seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, when does this check go into effect?
July 1.
July 1?
At this time, we'll take about a 5-minute recess. If Mr. Turner will have a seat, we'll come back into order. Mr. Superintendent? You're close enough, Mr. Turner.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have in your packet, I just want to call your attention to two things, where the school calendar is. And what I'm asking you to do today is to set the dates and times for the school board meetings for next year. And what we're trying to do is get everything done right on the front end. And because you have, Ms. Lake has already, no promises, she said, but I promise. She's already worked on the development trim calendar. And we worked with looking at the summer calendar and what we have to do going on there. And you'll notice that we follow the normal schedule we have the board meeting on Christmas Day. So what you see here is a What I'm asking you to do is consider this for adoption for board meeting times, dates, and deadlines.
We have a Monday meeting for the trim company.
I prepped you for that. You're gonna give me credit?
Yes, ma'am. I will give you all the credit for
We
that.
do, we
Actually, we have two of us, Charlie.
We do, because we have to fit certain requirements, for the Department of
The
Revenue.
cancellation of July 10th and 24th is because of trend, is that?
Well, the cancellation is my understanding that there's something going on the 10th, so we rearranged it to fit with trim, because if not, we would have had to have had like 3 that month.
Yeah, we have some summer training going on in July, and a lot of folks going to be out of town with the defect training, and we're still going to have 2 board meetings in July anyways, we just moved it. And consult with the personnel department to make sure we're not going to have any delays in hiring and getting those things done that we need to get done, and they say that this calendar is good.
So what you're proposing, the canceling July, the 10 and the 24th?
Yes, ma'am, and adding the 23 and 31st.
23 and 31st. And so that's the only thing that we're voting on now, or you're proposing now?
Well, this is for the whole calendar for the whole next year.
We're still saying with second and fourth.
Yeah, with the exception of the September 10th date, will be a Monday, 6 p.m., and go ahead and cancel the Christmas board meeting date.
Nobody wants to come that day?
We don't want to get it.
I was absent at the last meeting, but the school calendar was voted on at the last meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Is that part of the discussion or not? I just want to say kudos, it looks really clean and neat, whenever it reads on that, but it looks nice, the calendar looks nice. Like whole weeks, not pieced up, it all looks good.
I'll put you on committee next. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the superintendent's recommendation?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Now, are there any changes to the minutes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Has everyone had a chance to read over them?
Yes.
Move
Make motion.
approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the last meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move into our consent agenda. It is at this time, I understand we have some folks here with us that would like to address us at this time concerning an issue on the consent agenda. If you would like to come forward at this time, you are more than welcome to. Please keep in mind that on these things, we limit presentations to 5 minutes.
Five minutes apiece.
Yes, sir, 5 minutes apiece, but if it gets to be redundant over and over, we will call you.
Well, how's everybody doing today? Just wanted to let y'all know I just came from work, so that's why my wardrobe is like it. But I just wanted to address everybody on the situation that I had a drug analysis that was positive, and I wanted to make it clear that I am not a user of marijuana, but I happened to be around the wrong people at the wrong time that was doing some of the wrong things, and you know, me being young, it caught up with me, and I just wanted to come and say my piece on that part, because anyone who knows me know that that's out of my character. That ain't me. But I be hanging out with these people, so I just wanted that to be known to everybody in the room that's going to be speaking on that situation. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Not within his 5 minutes, man. Start over, right? I'm his father, and I'm here, I'm a bus driver. And I apologize for not being able to talk to you before this time. But I'm trying to save a good bus driver. What I'm trying to do is because good bus drivers are hard to come by. And that's my son, who live with his brothers that have some habits that they need to get rid of. And they live and they play cards and stuff together, and that's what happened in this situation.
And he is not a reckless driver. He have no accidents, perfectly on time. I mean, a good record as a bus driver. Good record. And I can't understand because according to our handbooks, and what I want to know from you guys, according to our handbook, it says that upon a positive test, there could be a determination, which leave a possibility. And I want to know what is the circumstances of the second chance, especially under what his story is. I mean, I believe his story. I mean, trying to get you guys to believe it. I mean, I know you know everybody always say when they get caught, oh, I'm not a user. So I want to know what's, and this is not the first time that the school have had people who have been positive, and there are a lot of them have had second chances. And I wanted to know what is the, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is this the first time that anybody ever had tried to get a second chance? Or but there are people who have had second chances. What are the alternatives of a second chance? Because in the handbook it said it could be. So why would they give the possibility of a person could not lose their job if there's an alternative to it? So why is it, you know, no drug tolerance? I mean, because I don't think that's why, I know we say that, but is it, why is there people who have had second chances?
I don't know, and just understand days, I do, sympathize with you very much, and I do think the world of you and everything that you, not just as a bus driver, but as a person. And but the issue here is we have a board policy, and the board policy specifically says that in this case, I mean, he's a bus driver, it's not like somebody else. And if you're tested positive for a specific substance that he tested positive for, that the superintendent shall recommend termination. And so that's the board policy. I can't quote which one it is. That's the
yeah, and I understand the policy clear,
and
but when it says it could be, in our handbook, this is the bus driver's handbook, what are the circumstances that gives a person a second chance? I'm pretty sure they put could in there because there is alternatives.
It's our board policy is what we're governed by. I haven't looked specifically at that handbook, so I'm not sure what the language is there.
I have it right there.
And I'll be happy to take a look at it if that's the board's pleasure. But despite the wording that's used in the handbook, the board policy would obviously take precedence over that.
Yes, ma'am.
Your drug testing, is it random or is it something you test regularly for bus drivers? How did this come about for a drug test?
our bus drivers are tested randomly.
Each one is drug tested randomly throughout the year, or just, is it like a lottery? How does that work?
It's throughout the year. They test it randomly throughout the year.
So everybody would get tested sooner or later, or somebody could be tested 3 times in 1 year?
Yeah, somebody can be tested more than once in 1 year. It's not, it's because it is random.
Okay.
So, not mentioning names, but like it was said, upon a circumstance such as this, because some other drivers have gotten kind of scared about it because they had husbands that uses the stuff, and they said, they asked one of the officials, transportation officials, about, well, what would happen? Because my husband uses the stuff, and what would happen if it get into my system? And this very person, who's the lead person, said that, oh, all you have to do is appeal it because they can't fire you for that. I mean, that's what was really just twirling over in my mind about why there's not a second chance. And did you say the school board policy? You have that policy? The school board policy that take precedent over what the handbook says?
That's not right.
And what it says?
I don't
have it right?
I don't have policy right.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there such thing as a false positive? Do Did you give them another drug test to make sure it wasn't a problem? Or, I know I worked in a place where it was a large government agency, they allowed you one oops, but it wasn't a driver.
Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
No, I understand.
That's the problem, ma'am. And enough is said on that. That's the problem.
I understand the problem.
Oops. Come on. No,
I don't know. I'm
so you
asking
said
a question.
where you came from, where you talking about you were, if they got caught with marijuana in their system, they could
No, I
get
said if they
oops.
did a random drug test.
What's
they-
this random drug test is a drug test?
You still don't know if it's a false positive. I'm just saying.
How would
I'm
you
just
get,
asking.
if
I
you
don't
get
know.
tested for it positively and it's in your system, how can that be a false test?
I don't know. I'm not a druggist or a chemist. I
Why
don't
do you
know.
why do you even bring that part of it up?
Because I want to know. I have these questions.
So there's never been a person, and that's what you guys are saying to me now, that there's never been a person within our school board that have had second chances.
Can I say something? Sure. I've only been here for 3 years. But I can tell you that there has not a student walked in here. I don't know that I've dealt with an employee with a drug issue yet. But there's not a student stepped in here one time with a drug or alcohol issue that has not been expelled from Lee County School. Okay, since I've been handled every single time. And it's my belief that our employees, teachers, bus drivers, and everyone should be held at a standard higher than our students. Okay? That's just this is my own personal belief. And I think it sets a bad example for a student athlete who walks in here and says, all we gotta do is come up with, I was walking down the street and they was smoking dope, and I got in my hair. But you know what I mean? What does it say? We've heard every excuse in the world, I promise you, in these expulsion hearings. Every one of them. I appreciate the honesty too.
Right.
The only question I would have is, have you changed your living conditions? If you were to go back and have a test done a month from now, is it gonna be different?
Yeah, I've already changed my living condition prior to.
And did you know that you would, could have a random drug test?
I did, and I accept the responsibility for putting myself in that situation. But for 4 years now, it wasn't an issue. So I didn't think it was a big issue for me at that moment, but like I say, it's something that I put myself in that situation, but.
He didn't believe it because I'm his dad. I said, son, if you don't get up out of there, this is gonna cost you your job. I said that secondhand stuff can get in your system, and he didn't believe it could happen.
I will, on your question, has anybody ever had a second chance? I've been here a little over 8 years, and we did have an employee who was tested positive for an illegal substance, and was a great employee, but the reality is the school board policy is what it is. We have no tolerance for that. So there was I've never personally witnessed a second chance on it just because.
Okay, well.
And I'll say that, and then I'll follow that up with on the oops thing. This is the way I look at it, and this is a daddy looking at it this way. If you have any of that illegal substance in your body and you're driving our school bus, I don't want my children on a bus where you have any of it in you, whether it's secondhand, firsthand, however, and that's no knock on it. I have a friend who had a very high-paying job in the medical field. Same thing happened. He was at a party, other guys were doing it, he never touched his stuff. Random drug test, got him. He lost his license that he practiced with. He no longer had that job, and he had to start completely over. And it was a same situation because of the seriousness of the job. I look at it, the most precious thing a parent has is their child. We turn that child over, and the first person they get is that bus driver to guarantee that home. If anything is impairing that bus driver, they don't need to own that bus driver. You may be great at it, you made a bad decision, and I appreciate the honesty and all that, and I think you yourself have answered the question, could it have been a false positive? You were around it. That mess gets in you, and those kinds of things. And so that's the way I look at it.
Well, trust me, I believe what you're saying. I understand that and I agree with what you're saying, but the only thing that's raising the question with me is what the handbook says.
I would think
that's the only thing that's raising the question, and what I'm understanding now, because maybe I'm getting some misinformation, and I have to kind of watch that too. People can give out wrong information, but there are people who are willing to come in, stand up and say that they had second chances. And that's why I was asking the board, There's never been anybody who've had second chances, and there's no kind of alternatives to when this happened with a person, and they can have the second chance and know that this can never happen again. You know, so you're telling me that it never happened with?
I've never seen it.
It never happened.
Some have been here longer than that, I've never seen it.
All right.
I think maybe based on what you're saying about the handbook, we might need to
You
look at
gotta
that,
definitely have to address
because
that.
our policy is flat out. And
I think I've been here the longest as a board member, and I've never remembered the policy is a policy, and that's what we have to follow, and like Mr. Etheridge said, we're tight with students and the consequences and what has to happen on that. That is a policy, and I do appreciate the honesty and coming forward and addressing this board and being a good bus driver and a great record. I truly appreciate that, but it is a policy, and like Mr. Delaney said, that always supersedes the handbook, no matter what. That's the law.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you very much for coming.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Howard, do you have any questions on the consent agenda?
No, sir, my question has been answered.
Mrs. Bricken?
No, I don't have any questions about the agenda. They've all been answered. Mr. Edison answered all of them. Did a great job, thank you.
I take that back, I do have a question.
Okay.
If, with this situation, Ms. Kaylee, with him testing positive, and let's say we did put him back behind the wheel and he had an accident, would we be liable then?
If he had an accident, yes, sir, I would.
Thank you.
And let me ask a follow-up on that too, because he has a good record and obviously it's kind of terminated because of that. Would he be eligible to reapply after a certain time or come back or?
We haven't addressed that, but certainly anybody's eligible to apply and go through the process.
Mr. Turner?
Consent agenda 1A6, the approval of the job description. Number 2, under qualifications, says certified by the state of Florida in reading, holding a reading endorsement, or be currently working on one of the above. One of the above just includes those two things, correct? Does not include number 1, bachelor's degree. They still got to have a bachelor's degree. Okay, but they can be working on certification in reading or the reading endorsement. Okay, thank you. That was the question that I had.
And just a little clarification on this, they've changed rules a little bit on how K-12 reading monies can be spent. And if you remember back in the day, one of the directives was that you could not add any reading coaches in what you have. But we do have this is a categorical, and it's, we've received direction that we have to spend these dollars and spend them on the kids and bring some extra assistance.
Title dollars or?
Generally, well, in the school cases, what they generally do is, school pays a part of the salary and the title part pays part, and the reading grant pays part of the salary.
Okay. Thank you. That was all I had, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Etheridge?
Yes, our buying power, our group buying power, I'm intrigued, and, because I read it yesterday, what we're lumping with Osceola County, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and what this does is gives us a larger buying power being a small district?
Correct.
Cheapens our buying power by how much probably?
I'm sorry,
How much does it discount
I don't have a number figure, but I do a lot.
It's the largest,
Thank you.
it's the largest power buying group in the nation, I believe, for food service. It's, was, what, 39 counties out of
Yes.
Florida.
Distributor's still the same, U.S. Food Service, right?
Yes, sir. And that's not only in food costs, but that's just in the time that it takes to actually bid a product. That if we had to, Gerald and I, we wanted a product, and we had to go out and get 3 bids for everything. You look at our menu, and had
to get bids for each one of those, it would be a lot of time.
Doesn't limit you any in what you can select.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
no.
they're gonna have to catch up on it, I'm sorry.
Well,
You're gonna have to catch up on it, Jim.
You have to buy a certain chemical, but that's because it's governed by USDA, not by our power buying group. But they go out and actually pick, they get three different kinds of ketchup, and they pick the one that is the least expensive and meets all the requirements. So that our side doesn't have to do that.
Okay, so I have just one last question.
Sorry about the ketchup issue.
Well, I know the Commissioner of Ag has pushed really hard for fresh from Florida products into the school system.
Yes.
Do we serve any fresh from Florida products in the Lee County school system?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do, and we actually, I've actually put in for more funds to be allocated next year to bring in even more fresh produce.
Okay. That's available through this program?
Yes.
That's the only question I had, sir.
Very good, very good.
Good question.
On the K2 reading coach assist district, is that somebody that's just gonna be all over the district?
Yes, yes, sir, it's not allocated to a specific school, it's allocated to all schools.
So go where you need to.
Yeah. Okay, I can tell you right
That's what I
now,
thought, but I just wanted.
I mean, this is the conversation we have over here, but we're gonna have much more conversation with this as an instructional team, but I'm a firm believer in that if you get it right in K1 and 2, if you can get these kids on level, reading on level by grade 3, you can keep them there. The problem is getting them caught up if they're not reading on level at grade 3. So that's where we need to spend some resources and some time and get these kids reading on level when they leave grade 3. And that will greatly reduce a lot of dollars that we're spending on remediation of instruction on the backside, and allow us to do a lot more creative and all the different things in our schools.
Excellent. If there's no other comments, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda in addition to.
Second.
Motion and second, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Superintendent, do you have any wise words for us tonight?
No, sir, just a good night tonight, I appreciate the Bronson kids coming up here tonight.
Especially that.
That was, he's great.
All right.
He's got a special mom.
He does have a special model. Like I said,
Very good.
the model would be amazing if it weren't for our high school principal. I mean, he held it down. Anyway, that's another story. Board comments time. Mr. Etheridge, I'll start with you tonight.
It took me a minute to figure out who it was. No, I don't have a lot, but students like that and through our CDE programs, I appreciate them bringing to the board to see good things because, just like the gentleman said, those freshmen in high school ability to stand in front of a group of people in a contentious situation talking about a contentious subject. I don't know that was, Mr. Turner and I talked outside for a minute a while ago, the way that position, I don't know that everybody actually understood that. That would be more like a town hall meeting scenario where they have that discussion and interaction back and forth with one another. You know, I don't think that's necessarily Bronson High School FFA's position about nitrates in the water. But it is good to see, because we hear all the time that our education is not in touch with what's going on in the world. And I will tell you, there's a test well being drilled in front of my ranch now with the DEP, because we're at the far north end of the Rainbow Springs. Some of us natives would call that Blue Run. Yeah. So we'll be at the far north end. They'll be testing our water. The state they put 18 monitoring wells from me south. Didn't have anything to do with it. I was like, we just randomly selected to be in the road ditch in front of my place. They cost $150,000 a piece. So I stopped and had a conversation in the road ditch with DEP. And I said, that makes sense. I got a well across the fence. Why would you spend $150,000? Just come in the gate here and get your water. Yeah. So that's what we did. Anyway, real world scenario, our kids are talking about something. It's kind of just like the unfunded mandate that we're going to deal with SROs in our school district. They're talking about nitrate levels that are going to have to be monitored in January or in July. And they only have the wells in the ground. But we're under rules and regulation farming on those. This doesn't have anything to do with school board. Anyway, I've been in the Farm Bureau board meeting all day today. But this is, I mean, the kids are on topic of what's going on in agriculture in the world
You're trying to
today.
get back to it, it'll be okay.
Yeah, that's all, I'll get on. I think she,
Well, I wanted to mention, they gave a great skit. If I could have asked the Farm Bureau ladies some questions, I had some. I was hoping they would take questions, but they didn't. I would love to see this type of thing, and I posted on Facebook, to have this more detail on your agenda. These kids that are going to be presenting, I think you'd have more participation. I enjoy all these little skits and the things that they do, but when you look at the agenda, there's nothing to draw me in. And the employee assistance program, the same thing. Assist to do what? It's also vague. I would like to see a little bit more detail just on these two subjects, especially when the kids make a presentation. Because they always do such a great job, and I think it would really do them a lot of good and bring more people in to come to these meetings. That was just a thought. So when you were mentioning that, I wanted to say I would love to see backup documentation for people to read what they were going to do along with the assistance program. So that ties in with your comments.
I do want to encourage you, because one of the things that they did talk about, that they will be competing at the state WPA convention. That's one opportunity to see a lot of good things that our kids are doing and never gets covered. And that is probably the premier leadership organization, in my opinion, in the state of Florida. And so I would encourage you that if you want to see a lot of good things, and a lot of good things a lot of good kids are doing, that's a good opportunity. And because that's the days that some of the kids shine. Watch some of these kids in these competitions, and you will be amazed.
and we in Levy County have one of the best programs in the state.
We have for, I think, what, decades, haven't we?
Absolutely the best.
That's rumor has it. Well, you were principal back in the day when that was going on.
Even better. Even better.
Mr. Turner?
I have no comments other than speaking to Mr. Breezy earlier today, and we at Levy County School escaped pretty much that torrential weather we had last night. And I was kind of, having been around a long time, expecting a lot of leaks, but was not made aware of that many. So you dodged this one.
Just, and I don't know what the final answer is, but I know we were checking on the phone systems at Williston High School today. But because we went voice over IP, the fix is a $200 card versus a $3,500 system.
We called at a time where any time there was any lightning or storm come through, entire systems had to be replaced. So that was a smart move as well.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mrs. Brookins.
I got to visit the track meet at Cheatham High School this past week and help out with that, and it was wonderful. I enjoyed, the kids and great Cedar Key kids and all the schools, and it was just a really great event. Of course, there's always needs at the school and the track and things that we need up there. But also, we did have a very extremely sad situation with the Cheatham community and with a Cheatham High School student, and I was very close to that student because he did work with me at the restaurant for over a year, and his family certainly needs the prayers and support, and all the students as well. And that funeral will be Saturday. It's an extremely sad situation.
Thank you, Mrs. Brooks. Mr. Cowell.
I'm good tonight, so.
All right. Mr. Attorney, do you have anything?
Yes, sir.
All right. I only have a couple of things. I won't go long here. First of all, I'd like to recognize a gentleman by the name of Austin Collins. Austin Collins is a senior at Bronson Middle High School, and he won the state weightlifting championship in his weight division of 238 pounds. He's strong. He's going to be extremely in his prime, but he's strong. He clean and jerk. Now get ready. Here we go. He clean and jerk 385 pounds, and he bench pressed 265. 650 and won the state title. That's what his mama told him.
I know, he bench pressed 285, he was jerking to 60.
I was going to say, if he did that. Okay, his mama had it back.
I said, he broke my record if he did
You can't have that. The legend lives on. The other thing, talking about the the FFA members here, and I want to, she's not here tonight, but Carol Jones, she's still Carol Jones. However I meet you, that's what you are from now on. The email she sent out showing the kids participating going into sort of vocational stage, 2-year education versus bachelor's degrees, and the starting points on those paychecks and those kind of things. And I have said this before, because I have sat through them as a parent of a freshman, sitting listening to freshman orientation. The guidance counselor that sat there and talked to my son never once mentioned 2-year degree, never once mentioned potential vocational education, but harp on, let's go get that bachelor's degree. You will not be successful without that bachelor's degree. And I still sit here as a genuine college dropout and tell you, you don't have to have that college degree to be successful. You put in hard work, you keep going in some form of education, but it doesn't have to be a 2-year degree. When you see that children coming through our system and through the state of Florida have a starting salary with a 2-year degree or vocation in the $40,000, $44,000 range, and a bachelor's degree, they're starting out at $35,000, you have to look at that. Then when you think about the cost of that 2-year degree versus that bachelor's degree, if we don't make our children aware that there are options other than a 4-year degree, we are doing a disservice. And I still contend, and I have told that same guidance counselor, you need to point out all the options children have today, not just the only ticket is that 4-year degree. And that's... Yes, sir.
Okay, first off, the information he's talking about is on our district website, on the CTE page, and it's on our Facebook site. So it's on both places.
And you're saying that our guidance counselor was pushing the 4-year versus other options? Well, y'all were the bosses, you can instruct on how to present.
The 4-year, I sat, and I'm not calling names and not pointing anything out. I am saying my children, coming in freshmen, orientation, not once did the guidance counselor mention you can pursue a 2-year degree, you can pursue vocation. All she talked about was you're going to go to college, get the 4-year degree to be successful. Without that, you cannot be successful. I have brought that issue to the principal. And it is being addressed.
Here's a conversation that's going to happen this week, because I know, because I'm going to be there. And that in that document, if you go look at it on the website and on the Facebook site, and what gets lost in this is that it's called, there are basically 3 types of degrees. You got your bachelor's degree, and there's 2 types of AA degrees. There's the associate's degrees. There's associates of arts, and there's associates of science. Well, when you go out there, you qualify for different scholarships through the state of Florida. There's the Florida Academic Scholar, which is the very top one, and it's got a qualifying score way up here. Okay? Then there's the second level of the Bright Future Scholarship, which is here. Then down here is called the Gold Seal. And the Gold Seal Scholarship comes in, and it will, if you're working towards an AS degree, and that's the degree where these kids that want to go into a nursing program, that's the AS degree. Well, you can qualify for this with this score here and go to college and get assistance and work on your AS degree. Then if you decide that, well, I want to go to a bachelor's program, then I can switch. But you can go and earn those scholarship dollars working on this program here. And switch over, because there's somebody in this room that I know that did that.
And that information needs to be put out there for the students to know.
And
Because some people can just do 2 years, they can't do 4 years or whatever, they need to have all the options presented to them easily. And this one guidance counselor.
There is a climate change going on to make this very aware. Yes.
However, I don't think we need to lessen, the potential and the possibilities that do come with a bachelor's degree.
And I would never knock a bachelor's degree, but I am saying there are other options for our students to be successful. Everybody has lots of choices.
And what I'm about is if kids can earn scholarship dollars to go to school, then I want them to be able to earn it.
Is there any further business to be brought up?
Can I
Yes,
ask a question? This employee that was terminated, that's on consent agenda, is that the gentleman that was standing up there?
Yes, sir.
What's his name?
It's Mr. Davis.
First name.
First name is eluding me right now. I know his daddy, Courtney.
Courtney?
I can just. Yes, Daddy Brown days.
How long has he been a bus driver?
How long has it been bus driver?
Since April 2014, 2015, full-time.
Any further business? Seeing none? Meeting adjourned.